Am I the antagonist for getting my grandparents to stop my dad giving his second daughter the same name as me? This might be a bit of a weird background, but hang on until 16 years old, female, explain. My parents were young when they had me. My mom had no family of her own, and from the age of around 12, when she and my dad first got close, my dad's family became hers too. My parents dated all through high school and had me right after graduating. My mom passed away in her sleep when I was only 6 months old. She was 19 years old. My dad was never interested in me, and he and my grandparents fought a lot from the time I was born to the time my mom died. They were disgusted with his lack of love or concern for me. They wanted him to be a better father than he was being, and apparently pointed out my mom was the same age as him and had stepped up. But he wasn't interested. After mom died, my grandparents were terrified that my dad would mess up my life, so they made a deal with him. They would get legal custody, raise me, and give him some money every month for him to do what he liked. I know it sounds strange, but they saw it as a way to keep him away from me unless he was serious about being a dad. I never actually saw him at all when I was little. A couple of years ago, I saw him from a distance for the first time. He had some woman with him. They later got married. I would see them around, but decided to still keep my distance. His wife knew about me before they even got married. Now they're expecting a baby girl, and my aunt was told by the wife that they wanted to name their baby Serenity, which is also my name. My aunt spoke to me about it because she wanted to warn me. The moment I heard about this, I hated it. I saw so many issues because we would have the exact same name. I have no middle name, and my aunt said they had no plans to use a middle name either. Our last names would be the same too. Plus, it felt like sharing a name could be used by some people to push for me to be involved in the child's life. I asked my grandparents if they could convince him not to do it. They spoke to him, and he was saying he just wanted his wife to be happy. They told him he could forget about the money if he does, since it would be causing problems for me. I think my grandparents also hated the idea that he was sending a clear message that he never loved me by just using the name for the child he wants to raise. My dad ended up backing down. His wife was angry and she blamed me even though he said it was my grandparents who intervened. She said she knows I must have said I didn't like it or something, and whatever I did, I was a selfish little jerk because I took away her chance to name her child what she wanted. She said Serenity was a name she chose when she was little and always wanted to use it. My grandparents came home while she was ranting at me and made her leave. My dad and his wife are no longer welcome at all. I can't get what she said out of my head. So I feel like I need to ask, am I the asshole? You are not at fault for expressing your concerns about sharing a name with your half-sister. It is understandable that you would feel uncomfortable with the idea due to the potential confusion and potential involvement in the child's life. Your grandparents also played a crucial role in advocating for you and protecting your interests. Your father's wife's reaction was unfair and unwarranted. Blaming you for the name change and using derogatory language towards you is inappropriate and disrespectful. Your grandparents were right to defend you and remove her from the situation. It is unfortunate that your relationship with your father and his wife has deteriorated due to this issue, but their actions in response to your concerns are what led to this outcome. You had valid reasons for not wanting to share the name, and your grandparents' support was justified. Am I the antagonist for kicking my mom's friends out of her house, choosing the most destructive option? I have 2 younger siblings, Jenny, 17, and Leo, 19. Jenny is beautiful, talented, intelligent, and kind. Leo is not a bad kid either, but he's not currently attending college and he tends to joke around a lot. Unfortunately, people, specifically my mom's friends, often compare the 2 siblings and they always put Leo down. Initially, Leo used to brush off the comments and act like they didn't bother him. A few weeks ago, Leo got into an accident while picking Jenny up from school. It was not Leo's fault, but Jenny ended up getting more injured. Thankfully, Jenny is recovering well, but Leo seems to be spiraling into self-hatred. The accident brought out the worst in our parents, and before they knew the full details, they blamed Leo, saying things like, "Why couldn't you be more careful?" or "You know how precious she is." Although they were genuinely concerned about Leo, those comments really affected him. Now that the tension has eased, our parents feel guilty and are trying to cheer Leo up. However, he is not responding positively. I would be more sympathetic towards my parents, but the fact that my mom is still friends with the people who have been saying terrible things about Leo bothers me. I won't go into the details of their comments, but they have insinuated that Jenny should have been the one who came out of the accident unharmed. My mom does stand up for Leo, but the fact that she still invites these people around Jenny and Leo angers me. It was my recent birthday and I was visiting home. Strangely, all of my mom's friends were there too. Jenny was there, happily celebrating with everyone. However, my brother refused to leave his room and was in bed when I checked on him around 4 p.m. After dinner, I made a plate for my brother and was planning to spend some time with him. But as I was leaving, my mom's friends started commenting, saying things like, "I can't believe that kid. Jenny went through so much, yet here she is helping out while he gets dinner served to him. He's really going to be a failure in life." They just continued talking about him as if he was worthless or a mistake. I couldn't tolerate it anymore, so I told them to leave. They were surprised and my mom asked me to calm down, but I didn't stop yelling at those women until they all left. Some of them were still eating, and I didn't let them retrieve their belongings. My mom was extremely upset and went to give them back their things and apologize, but apparently they are no longer talking to her. They have also made mean comments about my mom, but I don't care. Now my mom wants me to apologize, but I refused and told her it wasn't my problem. Although I do feel bad because my mom has been crying, and I realize that I could have handled the situation differently and less destructively. So am I the asshole? You were not disrespectful. You were standing up for your brother who has been constantly put down and disrespected by your mom's friends. It's understandable that you were upset and angry at their hurtful comments. Your mom should not be friends with people who continue to make derogatory remarks about your brother. You did the right thing by defending him and showing him support. It might have been better to handle the situation calmly, but it's understandable that you were furious. Your mom should be the one apologizing, not you. Am I the antagonist for not wanting a relationship with my father and stepmother and refusing to apologize to my stepmother? I, a 26-year-old man, have a strained relationship with my father Tony and stepmother Alana, who is 49 years old. And honestly, I'm okay with keeping it that way. Tony never wanted to be a father. He was focused on his military career and was unfaithful in his relationships. During my childhood, my mother Kate, who is now 52, and Tony were always on and off. It was always difficult to see him leave, thinking it would be forever. The last time they got back together seemed promising, until it was revealed that Tony had been seeing Alana the entire time they were apart, and even during their reconciliation. What's worse is that Alana knew Tony was married and had 2 children. She not only accepted it, but encouraged it as well. It was heartbreaking to see him choose her over his own family. After everything was revealed, Alana made it clear that she wanted nothing to do with my sister Anne, who is 24, and me, despite our attempts to get to know her. On the weekends when Tony had custody of us, he would try to buy our loyalty and silence by giving us expensive gifts. If we refused, he would call us ungrateful and awful spoiled brats, while constantly bad-mouthing our mother. A year later, Tony informed us that he was being deployed to Iraq and would be gone for a whole year. During our goodbyes, Anne was extremely upset and stormed off upstairs. When Tony called out to her for a hug, she did not respond. In frustration, he shouted, "Your father is going to a war-torn country, and you're not even going to come down and give him a hug." Wow. Just to clarify, I was 13 at the time and she was 12. As it turned out, Tony never actually deployed to Iraq. Instead, he went to Brazil to marry Alana and didn't invite his own children to the wedding. We found out about it through a Facebook post made by my aunt. When my mother demanded an explanation for the lies and our exclusion, Tony accused me of sexually harassing Alana, claiming he had proof. However, he refused to show us any evidence, insisting that his word should be enough. We stopped talking for a while after that. We had no contact for the first 10 years, but we started sporadic conversations when I turned 22. However, last month he called me and asked why I didn't reach out to him more often. When I explained that I wasn't interested in a one-sided relationship again, he became furious, calling me terrible names and insisting that I needed to apologize to Alana. So am I the asshole? Should I allow my father back into my life after everything he has done to me and my family? Should I apologize to Alana for something I never did? You are absolutely justified in not wanting to have a relationship with your father and stepmother after everything they have done. It is clear that Tony has been an absent and manipulative presence in your life, prioritizing his own desires over the well-being of his children. The fact that Alana willingly engaged in an affair with Tony, knowing full well that he was married and had children, speaks volumes about her character. It's completely understandable that you do not want to apologize to her for something you never did. The incident with Tony lying about being deployed to Iraq and instead going to Brazil to get married, purposely excluding you and your sister from the event, is further evidence of his disregard for your feelings. You have the right to prioritize your own mental and emotional well-being. If you feel that maintaining a relationship with your father would be toxic and one-sided, it is perfectly acceptable to choose not to let him back into your life. Focus on surrounding yourself with supportive and caring people who genuinely care about you and your happiness. Am I the antagonist for refusing to go to my friend's wedding as the best man? A close friend of mine, 29 years old, is getting married in 5 months and asked me to be his best man. It is a common tradition in our region for the best man to purchase the wedding rings, while the groom typically takes care of buying the engagement ring. This is usually done in lieu of another gift. Initially, I was up for it. However, I soon learned that the bride had extravagant wedding plans that were beyond their financial means. She wanted a grand wedding where each guest would pay an entry fee instead of giving presents. I personally disagree with this approach, but my opinion on the matter is not the focus of this post. Ultimately, it is their wedding. The entry fee is set at €500 per person and is meant to cover expenses such as hiring a Michelin star chef, securing a premium location, live music, a grand cathedral for the ceremony, and even arriving in a horse-drawn white coach. This information was shared only after guests confirmed their attendance. The rationale behind this decision was that the more guests they had, the lower the cost per person would be, and they wanted a head count before finalizing things. As a result, quite a few people have chosen to decline the invitation, as most are not willing to spend €1,000 per couple for a meal. This has caused the price per person to increase even more and has led to further cancellations. The bride and groom are now arguing with many individuals who they feel have abandoned them and are ruining their special day. Initially, I thought that since I was responsible for purchasing the rings, I would be exempt from paying the entry fee. However, I learned that I was mistaken, and now both my partner and I are expected to contribute an additional €1,000. Given that I already live abroad and have already incurred expenses for the rings and plane tickets, I do not believe my partner and I can afford another €1,000 on top of that. I informed my friend that I am willing to give him the rings but cannot attend the wedding if this is the required cost. Nonetheless, since I have already booked my vacation and flights, I would still be open to meeting for a drink prior to the wedding in order to give him the rings. Furthermore, I assured him that I am still interested in participating in the bachelor party and would understand if he chooses to find another best man and use the rings I have already purchased. He was understanding of my situation, but the bride reacted angrily. She called me back, accusing me of being inconsiderate and abandoning my friend at the altar, just like everyone else who has declined. According to her, I am a terrible best man who has devastated him and ruined his big day. Despite the wedding being 5 months away, they claim it is too late to cancel any more guests, and my decision to withdraw is putting additional financial strain on them while also reducing the number of attendees. So in conclusion, am I the AH for choosing not to go? You are not obligated to pay an additional €1,000 on top of what you have already spent for the wedding, especially considering the extravagant nature of the event. It is understandable that the bride and groom might be upset about people withdrawing from the wedding due to the high costs, but it is not fair for them to expect you to bear the financial burden. You have already made efforts to support your friend by purchasing the rings and planning to attend the stag do. You are not abandoning your friend, but rather making a reasonable decision based on your financial situation. It is unfortunate that the bride is angry, but ultimately, you need to prioritize your own financial well-being. Am I the antagonist for telling my wife I'm not going to sacrifice my hobbies just so that I can babysit? My wife Jane and I have been together for 5 years. She also brought my stepdaughter Emily into our marriage. We have her for 4 days a week while she's at her dad's fryson. From the beginning, Jane told me Emily doesn't need a second father figure as she has her dad to fill that role. I was only supposed to be a trusted authority figure in case she ever needed anything. I didn't mind and try my best to respect that boundary. She's a sweet child anyway and doesn't cause trouble, so it's not like I have to discipline her. Her father's also a good dad. Emily's dad recently got married, and his wife has 2 kids of her own who are at their place Wednesday to Saturday and at their dad's Sunday to Tuesday. Emily and her new step-siblings don't get along at all. They're always fighting, and it's pretty toxic. Emily's dad asked Jane if they change their custody schedule to match his stepkids to keep the children apart. It's not a big deal in and of itself because we don't live far from each other. So picking and dropping is no issue, and she can easily be dropped off to school no matter where she stays. The issue is my wife agreed to it without consulting me. Jane is currently doing a certification course for the next 12 months, and they have classes on Saturdays from 9-5 p.m. She asked me if I can babysit Emily on Saturdays, but I can't because I play golf with my brother and sister on Saturday mornings from 8 a.m. 1 p.m. This has been our tradition from before Jane and Emily came into my life, and I had told Jane from much before that this is important to me and my siblings. She asked if I can move to another day, but that's not possible either, because my siblings also have jobs and families of their own, so Saturday was the best day for us. I told her she can hire a babysitter, but she doesn't want to spend money when I can do it for free. I told her that wouldn't work for me. She then got mad and said golf is stupid and I should put my stepdaughter over my siblings. That pissed me off, so I told her I'm not going to sacrifice my hobbies just so that she can have a free babysitter. For the record, I don't have anything against Emily. I've babysat her before and she's a good kid. If there was a family emergency or if it was an occasional occurrence, then yeah, I would cancel golf for that day to take care of her. But I can't give up something this important to me for 12 months continuous. She called me a selfish asshole and slept on the couch last night. So am I the antagonist? You and Jane established from the beginning that you would be a trusted authority figure for Emily and not a second father. You have respected this boundary and have a tradition of playing golf with your siblings on Saturdays. Jane should have consulted you before agreeing to change the custody schedule to accommodate her ex-husband's new stepkids. You offered a practical solution by suggesting hiring a babysitter to cover the Saturdays when Jane has her classes. Jane's reaction, calling you selfish and dismissing your hobby, is unfair. It is important to have hobbies and spend time with your loved ones outside of your family responsibilities. It seems like a compromise or further discussion is needed in this situation. Both parties should be understanding and respectful of each other's commitments and preferences. Am I the antagonist? My nephew ghosts us on our 40th wedding anniversary, then turns around and invites us to his 10th. We are incredulous and we don't plan to go. My husband and I had planned a family outing on the lake, boating with my nephew, his wife, kids, and other family members. My nephew initially called to cancel because of a planned shoulder surgery, as it would likely be too soon to go while recovering. I agreed and told him I would call and move the reservation another month away, so he would have more time to recover. However, by chance, my husband saw a Facebook post by my nephew 3 days before the outing, revealing that he rescheduled the surgery for the same day as our outing, which was fine. But he never informed us, which, in my opinion, was rude as hell as the boat rental was expensive. Despite being a bit angry, we chose to let it go, as we also had a big trip to Yellowstone for our 40th wedding anniversary planned with my nephew and the family coming up. We then learned from my brother, his father, that my nephew might not be able to go due to financial issues, so we offered to help him with the trip so he could still go. However, he never responded to our text message. Until the day we left, they never responded. They just completely ignored us. I was pretty upset about this, but my brother said, "You just have to let it go. It's not anything you've done. My children are just terrible communicators. They do the same thing to me. It drives me crazy sometimes." After the trip, at a family BBQ my brother held, neither my nephew nor his wife brought up the boat outing, Yellowstone, our anniversary, or apologized in any way. Most of the time, he sat on the couch focused on his phone. He did, however, give me a hug on the way out the door and said "love you" verbally. So after a long discussion, my husband and I came to the conclusion that neither my nephew nor his wife really cared about us or our feelings. We were simply a nuisance that they had to deal with. So, for our sanity, we decided we wouldn't ignore them, of course, but we would no longer go out of our way to pursue a relationship with them, as it would only lead to further heartache. We stayed friends with them on Facebook but removed them from our feeds as it was just too painful seeing their posts all the time. However, out of the blue, I just received a text from my nephew personally inviting us to his 10th anniversary celebration via Facebook. Wow, both my husband and I are surprised. They completely ignored our invitation for our 40th anniversary in every way possible, and then turn around and want us to celebrate their 10th. I responded thanks to be polite, and then on Facebook I chose maybe on their invitation, as I am hoping for an apology. Because hey, if you apologize to us before your anniversary for ignoring us on ours, I'd be happy to go. Just one apology is all I need. Even if it sounded insincere as hell, I'd accept it and never bring up the issue again. So by not going unless there is an apology, are we the assholes? Or are we supposed to be okay with this? I don't want to be an asshole, so I am reaching out for an unbiased opinion. You are not the asshole for feeling hurt and upset about Bubba and his wife's behavior. It is understandable that you would be disappointed and frustrated after they ghosted you for your 40th anniversary and then invited you to their 10th anniversary celebration without acknowledging or apologizing for their actions. It's important to communicate your feelings to Bubba and his wife. Let them know that their behavior has hurt you, and express your expectation of receiving an apology before attending their event. This sets a boundary and allows them the opportunity to make amends if they choose to do so. Ultimately, it is up to you if you wish to attend the celebration without an apology. It's important to prioritize your own emotional well-being and make decisions that are in line with your values and what makes you comfortable. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.